What are we doing?
So we're going to go through as much as you call it, mastery.
Mastery.
It's not. It's not. What we're going to try and do is we're going to try and give everyone the foundations of how to make a livery.
Okay.
And then once you have that, you can explore further, because you could do this there's so much stuff you could end up doing with liveries.
Mhm.
So what I've tried to do is try and break things down into 4 parts. But the first thing to say is I'm no expert. I only started doing this when I looked at the Spitfire. We did that Spitfire livery.
Yes.
That was the first ever thing I did. So just before I start though, big shout out to Cyrus T, because without his help I wouldn't have been able to figure it all out.
Nice.
So he's the man. He's the man.
He's the man.
So first off, just on this point. So this just I was trying to decide what to call the sessions.
Okay.
What we're going to do today in session 1 is the boring stuff, which,
the
I
boring
can't think
stuff.
of much more else to call it. Then next week we'll start to look at getting to painting and what that means and how to get things in the sim. Then we'll look at adding some complexity, and then we'll do kind of a review and wrap up. But the idea being that once we've done really the 3, because the 4th one is like a wrap up, once we've done the 3, everyone will be able to make their own livery. So
Sweet.
That's the intention. So we'll see. So the first bit we're going to cover is the software and plugins side.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see here I've put I've got Intel and Nvidia.
Okay.
And I use Photoshop. I don't know if there's something for AMD systems. I just don't know. So if you've got AMD, you'll need to go and do some searching and just find out if you've got something that you can use. I honestly just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing to look at is the actual software itself. So 1 second. Drag this over here. So I'm sure most of you have heard of Photoshop. So Photoshop is what I use. I've got their Creative Cloud thing. I just saw you pointing there. That was really off-putting.
No, what happened was, Giva said, I hope you're taking notes. You can use PowerPoint. And I said, I can't PowerPoint. No. Yes.
So I use Photoshop. You can also use there's a piece of software called Paint.net, which I know a few people have heard of.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use Paint.net. I haven't used it myself, but I've been told you can use it. And yes, there's also a program called GIMP.
Dreamy, sleepy, nighty, snoozy, snooze.
The image manipulation program. And this is I don't know why they called it that. I don't know what.
It's the sort of name you'd get away with in places of,
So I used this before I moved on to Photoshop. It's a very good image manipulation program, as it says in the title, but it's a very good piece of software. And I've been informed that you can use this as well to create the livery files that you'll need for MSFS.
Sweet.
So the first thing for those that need to or want to create a livery is I would suggest getting one of these pieces of software. I'm going to put some links. Murph kindly created a channel in Discord called Livery Design.
Ah, sure, listen, right. Oh, I better open that up, shouldn't I?
So I'm going to put some links in there to some of the things I'm going to talk about so that they're easy to find. Once you have your image editor, you need a plugin. So Microsoft Flight Simulator uses what's called a DDS file. And a DDS file is it's a texture format. That's about all I know. But it uses DDS files, and for some of these softwares you need like a plugin. So I've got the ones for Photoshop. That's what I use. That's what I know.
Mm-hmm.
So I use one called Intel TextureWorks.
Okay.
So what this does is when you download the plugin and install it into your Photoshop, effectively it adds a save option that means you can save as a DDS file. That's essentially what this plugin does. You don't need to know any more than that. All this kind of stuff, all this write-up, really interesting. But all you really want is this box to ability to save using this box, using the texture works, and that gives you a DDS file.
Okay.
So that's what you need to do for the liveries. There is also NVIDIA texture tools.
Okay.
Does the same thing. I don't use it, but it does the same thing. I mean, pick whichever one you like, really. And this is where for AMD, if you've got an AMD system, you'll just need to find how to save a DDS file.
Okay.
So that's the AMD side. So once you've got your piece of software and you've got your plugin, if it's required, I don't know, some of these may save in DDS natively, I'm not sure, but once you've got your software and your plugin and you can save as a DDS file, you're ready to go with those things. You're ready to kind of go and create liveries and save the files. So the next thing we'll need is, or we don't need, we'll get onto this when we talk about painting and complexity, but there's such a thing called a paint kit. Now, some developers release a paint kit with their aircraft.
Mm-hmm.
Some do not. There are no paint kits for the MSFS default aircraft. There might be some that people have made, but generally there aren't any.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they're terrible to work with. So there's a few aircraft I've selected to work with for the purpose of this course because I know they have quite a good paint kit, which makes it easy as an introduction.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones we're going to work with are, I wrote them down somewhere, but I don't know where I wrote them down. Where did I write them down? On here. Let me move that over there. So we're going to work with the Comanche,
Nice.
the Spitfire, and the MB339.
Ooh.
So what this gives you is the options. You can work with any of those three, and what we'll go through will apply to all of them, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
I will send the links to the paint kits for the Spitfire and the Comanche into the Discord channel.
Okay.
The 339, to get the paint kit for that, you just need to join their Discord.
Okay.
And when you join their Discord, you can go into one of their channels has got the paint kits within it.
There's also a few, I think, over on flightsim.to. You can get some of the paint kits in there too, I think.
Yes, there are. And so some livery painters use Blender.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't learnt it. Apparently, if you learn Blender and you can figure it out, it's easier to use than doing it the way that I do it. But I haven't learnt it. I can't really be bothered to learn it. So I've genuinely no idea how it works.
Okay.
So once you've got your software, you've got your plugin, you've got your paint kit. So the next thing just to understand is you'll see when you download something from the TTM website or wherever, you end up with a folder that you put in the community folder.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a folder for that livery. So each livery you create will need a folder that you're saving the files into.
Okay.
And what I'll do, I haven't done it yet, but I'll create some templates that I'll also share that people can use. So you can just download the template. So within the folders, what shall I use? Let's go with this one. So the first things you see is sim objects, layout, and manifest. So in layout, what this document, bit of code, whatever it is, this is where I know it works, but I don't know how it works.
Okay.
What this is doing is telling the sim, this is what you want to look for. So what this is effectively doing is saying within the sim objects folder are these files. And those are the files we need you to display when you load this livery. So that's effectively what that layout thing is doing.
Okay.
The manifest, this is some details about the version, the aircraft, who created the livery. So you can see I've got my name here because this is the MB339.
So we can put our own name in there, like Mallet Head.
Can indeed. You have
brilliant.
to. You have to. You got to.
Yeah.
You got to take the credit, right?
Oh yeah.
So that's those two. So this is just some general details that we can update. So what I'm going to do is with the templates that I'll share, essentially in the title, this will say, I don't know, empty or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe template. There'll be some common word that I'll use throughout. Then all you'll need to do when we come to create the liveries is change the word empty or template for, I don't know, my livery or whatever you want to call it, whatever you want it to be. So then we get into sim objects, airplanes, 339. So you have in here, you have aircraft, you have a model folder, a texture folder, an aircraft folder. The main one we work in is texture. That's where we do everything we need to do. This model folder, you don't even need to, you don't do anything with it. This is just saying for this livery, this is the model of the aircraft. I'm pretty sure that's what it's doing. The aircraft CFG. This is again talking about, this is some of the details about, there's details about the aircraft, but it's also, you need to put some of the names in there of where the texture file is, where the model file is, that kind of stuff. It's pointing the sim to certain areas.
Yeah, so anyone familiar with FSX or even X-Plane, the aircraft CFG file is basically its own little manifest. So anyone from FSX, if you're adding liveries in, it's the same code. This is part of the ESP platform stuff. You had to add the next number down. So for example, this one up here says, I think it's FSIM 01, then you have 02, 03. So it's using the same kind of hierarchy of how these files worked. So if you used it before, you'd be familiar with this.
Cool. So these are the things that I know what I need to change and what I need to do. I don't know why. I don't know how it works. Magic, maybe.
The Irish invented this. That's why. I can tell you everything about it.
So as I say, most of our work is going to take place in the texture folder.
Okay.
So those familiar with the 339 livery that I did may recognize some of this stuff. So each of these image files is the DDS we were talking about. So each one of these is a DDS file. And that's where we need the Intel TextureWorks or the NVIDIA system to bring these in. And all we've done is we've changed the colors and schemes and that kind of thing of the main file. And I'll show a paint kit in a minute and I'll just show how that works. But for example, this MB339, most of the information is within this one square. That's most of the livery that you see every time you fly. Okay. Oh, this is the livery actually. Let's get the thumbnail for those not familiar. This one.
Oh yes.
So this is the livery I'm referring to. Most of pretty much everything you can see, all of the body, the tail, the wings, everything is in this one file. This one square. You'll see this one here that's a lot of blue, and I don't know if you can see a little tiny Firefly Air logo there and the FFA. That is, we might be able to see it here. See the pilot's helmet?
Oh no way!
So that's what that's doing.
Mm.
So what these files are, and one of the later sessions we'll go into where to find additional files, because there's some, with a paint kit comes a certain amount of information. I see a little loading thing. What's happened? Am I still there?
You're still here.
Yeah, I've got a loading thing. My stream's broken, so hey ho. Within the paint kit, you get certain file structure, but then there are other things that you can change.
Okay.
For example, this one is an instruments panel, so we can open that up, and we will have a look at these at a later time. I'm just trying to show kind of what's in the file. And then the only other thing in here is the thumbnails. So this is where you change the thumbnails that show up when you go 339. Which livery do you want? This is the image it pulls.
Okay. So if anyone if anyone's now sitting down holding their head thinking, don't worry. What Kanzooie is doing is giving us a full overview of what goes on in the background. But fear not, friends, because we're all going to start at the very beginning, and step by step, every step, we're going to do a livery creation together. We can use maybe different designs if you guys want to use your own logo or whatever, but just fear not. We want to understand what goes on in the background, because it'll make what we're doing kind of next week and the week after, it'll make more sense to us when we're doing it. So fear not, all is well.
Exactly. It'll all make sense. And I'm always around for questions. If you've got questions and I go over something and it doesn't make sense, let me know, because I've never done this before, so I could be talking absolute rubbish.
Well, the fact that you have to train me, I don't know how to do this, like, right?
So the last thing I want to go over today, because like I say, next week we're going to start actually doing some painting and creating the livery, is the paint kit. So I just want to show you what this looks like. So this is in Photoshop, and this is the MB339. So this is the one we just saw the Firefly Air livery for. So you'll see down the right-hand side, we have lots of layers. So paint kits work in layers. So lots of different images stacked upon each other. And what you can see is some of these things, we can turn them on and off. So, for example, this one, weathering and stuff. Can you see the difference it makes to the livery?
Yeah.
So this is all the weathering and kind of dirt details.
That's awesome.
There's quite a lot. It's all the stuff around the panels and all this kind of thing. So you can turn that on and off. There's some of the decals, you can turn those on and off. So this is all the rescue and all that kind of stuff. And there's a kind of whole host of elements within this paint kit. So paint kits are brilliant. And if you choose an aircraft to do a livery for that's got a paint kit, it will be much easier, much easier. Because if I let me choose color. If I choose red, if I just color that in red, because this is on, you can see here this layer 6 is highlighted. It's maintained the details over the top. Whereas if I don't have a paint kit and the layers, then this would go over the top. And again, don't worry, I'll go over this in more detail. And you'd lose everything underneath. So when you don't have a paint kit, this is what you've got to try and work around effectively, is losing all of the detail when you try and do, when you try and recolor it or whatever you're trying to do. As another example, this is the Flying Iron Spitfire paint kit. It's another good paint kit. It's a good one to use. The first one I ever used. And this has got the same elements down the side. So we've got, let me just zoom in so it's easier to see. So we've got some of the decals, and this is just changing. You'll see there's some wording here and some wording here. And this decals one is just turning those on and off. We have the main decals. Then we have, what have we got here? What's this? This is some of the black and green interior elements. Then the camo.
It's actually super handy because, like, say for example, if you found a livery you kind of like, but you might want to change a logo or a roundel. I mean, that's fairly easy enough to do. I mean, it's a drag and drop scenario. Or in fact, if you like the camo scheme and you just wanted to change the color, well, you could do that too. If it came to something like a tail number, for example, that you didn't need to worry about overriding any of the detailing. You can pretty much draw on top of that, really.
Yes. So if you just wanted to change a tail number and you weren't worried about the detail, you could do that pretty quickly. You'd need to set up you'd need the folder structure so it shows as a separate livery. But once you've got that, you can change the tail number in 5 minutes and it'd be done.
Yeah.
It's only when you start, and when we get into the later sessions, we'll talk about how to lining things up and how to make things kind of sharp and look right, because the more complex the livery, the kind of more difficult it is. Some of these also have, so this one, the Spitfire, for example, has what they call a wire frame. So as you can see from the livery, we can kind of make out the outline of the fuselage. If you turn the wireframe on, you can see exactly where the outline is.
Super.
So that when you go to paint your livery, you can just do it to the ends of that or just past the end. So you can make sure it's going to cover everything.
Nice.
And this one also has handily, and this, when we go into this later, you'll appreciate how useful this is. It has this. And what this does is, how you use this is you turn this on, you save this image as the livery, you load into the sim. When you look at your Spitfire, it's going to be multicolored with numbers and letters all over it. But if you're trying to change a certain panel or a certain element, this means that element will now be a certain color, and therefore you can find it and paint it. For example, these little bits here, these little bits here is, would you believe it, is the exhaust. That's the exhaust outlet on the front of the Spitfire.
Oh wow!
I don't know that because I painted them, so I.
That's really handy though, because you, like, for example, right? I'm on one example. An Irish Air Corps livery on the Hurricane, for example, that has a very small roundel underneath the canopy, and it's quite small. It's no bigger than a beer mat. So, like, for you to find that exact location, it take you ages. So something like that.
Yes.
But this sort of paint kit, Kanzooie, this pretty much goes back to the developer, as in when they say, yes, we've given you a paint kit, because I know paint kits vary. If memory serves me, I think Carinado have some of the worst or most difficult paint kits for people to make, because what they tend to do half the aircraft.
So I actually looked at the let me see if I've got it. 1 second. I looked at the F4F because that says comes with a paint kit. I was like, oh, brilliant! Maybe we can use that. It's a brand new, a brand new aircraft, and maybe people will be. And they actually provide the folder template, which is brilliant.
Okay.
So the folder template we talked about with the aircraft and the model and all that kind of thing, they provide that as a template. But when you actually go into the files, it's not a paint kit. It's just a selection of images. So they've got kind of this stuff, which you can overlay. This is the wireframe, shows you where the outlines are.
Okay.
And then they've got if I pick one of these. So what's this? We got the fuselage. So if I pick this one, so this is what they're calling the paint kit. It's not a paint kit because, well, it kind of is, but what this doesn't do is the details is not a separate layer. So that's what we're looking for in a paint kit, is things to be in separate layers so we can add our paint at the right level. Because at the moment with this, if you painted this, you'd lose all the details. So it's not particularly easy to work with.
We need to have an word with Jonks. Janie, then you might be able to do a thing for us.
Yeah, I thought, oh, brilliant, we can use that because it's brand new and everyone will love it. But it's not a paint kit, so we won't use that.
Okay. Jonks, it's Murph. We need to fix the thing with the yoke. That'll work.
Yeah. So appreciate these are payware aircraft that we're going to work on. That's because the free stuff doesn't. I haven't found a good paint kit for any free stuff yet.
Okay.
So it makes it really difficult to work with. So just as a starter for this first session is you'll need a piece of software that you'll be able to edit the images on. You'll need a plugin or the ability to save something as a DDS file. You'll then need one of the paint kits that we can work on, and you can choose whichever one you want. They all do the same thing. So whichever plane you'd like to make a livery for, feel free. If you've got I only have certain aircraft, so that's why I'm using certain paint kits. If you've got another aircraft that you want to use to make a livery, just do some searching, see if they've got a paint kit, open it up, see if it's in layers. If it is, use it. Because you need the aircraft in the sim to be able to create the livery, and we'll go through that later. But yes, you'll need the aircraft you're going to create the livery for to be able to test it.
Okay. Like there are paint kits available. A lot of them aim back towards kind of Blender. We're going to avoid Blender just for the moment. Like, we want to start somewhere, guys, right? So we're going to start using this method, and let's see where we go after this. Like, the objective here is to be able to create our own livery, and that's what we're going to do. There's more than likely going to be scope afterwards if folks want to try Blender or whatever else, but it's safe to say we'll stick with the three kind of templates that Kanzooie is working with. At least then we can all follow along and just do the thing.
Yes, and in answer to Gibbo's question, you don't need it, but it's helpful. It's a tool, so I'll cover it and let you know what it does. And then when I let you know what it does, everyone's going to download it. But I'll tell you how to do it the manual way first, because that's how I started before I found out about the layout generator. So I guess just to wrap up this first one. you want to create the livery, just before we start again next Wednesday, get yourself a piece of software and some plugin that enables you to save as DDS. Get yourself the paint kit that you're going to use to develop the livery. But more importantly, think about a design, because all of this enables you to create the livery. But you still need the idea, you still need what you want to do, you still need how it's going to look, what colors you want to use, do you want stripes, circles, whatever it's going to be. So one thing I'd say is have a think about what you want the livery to look like. Because I know when I start to look at a livery, I don't even open any of this stuff. I'm normally on a pen and paper, starting to draw things out and see what looks good. So yeah, have a little look at that kind of stuff, and then when we're back next week, we're actually going to start painting.
Nice. So what we'll do in the meantime, absolutely, and we'll monitor progress, and to be, you can score me on how I do, right? But with Discord, we're, anything that we need in terms of links, yourself and Kanzooie, we'll put them all there for you. So we'll say, right, you need this, and this. Download them all, install them, and if anyone's stuck, just let us know. There is a channel now created on our Discord specifically for this livery course, right, which is located here. If you don't know where it is, just go down to where it has Flight Sim and just go into livery design. This is a one-way communication channel, so the information doesn't get lost. But if you guys have any comments or whatever, just throw them into the Bremen bar and ping either myself or Kanzooie, and we can then push them back into this channel here then as well. So I'm pointing to stuff that you can't see, but there is a channel there. There is a channel. I
just had to laugh because I caught myself doing the Murph and Gibbo thing of going,
yeah, you were just nodding, right? You were just nodding. So there it is. What was the most amount of nods we got out of Gibbo? Jesus, I reckon it was 11.
It was a lot.
It was about 11 nods you got out of Gibbo. Brilliant, right? But yeah, look, the channel is there in our Discord or on our Discord, and we'll put some links into this during the week for you. And as I said, lads, we're going to start off from the very, very beginning, and the objective here is we'll all, at the end of this, be able to do a livery. Some people already know how to do it. Some people use different techniques. There's all different levels of experience when it comes to this. But we're just going to start on this specifically. I don't know how to do liveries. I want to learn how to do livery. I'm going to do a livery. And once we all know how to do liveries, well, then there'll be a competition towards the end, because I'm going to be looking for the best livery that we're going to do a community vote on, right? So there's loads of fun stuff coming down the road. Do you know?
I would just like to have just a Sterling's message of how long does it take, which is it's a really good question, and it can take many, many hours. What you'll see when we get into the later sessions, getting the basic elements of the livery done is very, very quick. Then getting the details and everything to line up, and all the little panels, like Murph mentioned earlier, the small little panel that's off color that you've got to try and find somewhere in one of the liveries files, that's what takes all the time. So yeah, it can take a very long time.
Well, it's like everything else. I mean, it's what you kind of put into it. If you want to start off somewhere simple, just having a standard livery and just put your own logo on it, I mean, you can absolutely do that rather than starting with pinstripe lines and different colors. I mean, that'd be classed as advanced. So even if you just want to have a logo, or maybe it's your avatar here, whatever, these are the options that we have. So it's going to be awesome.
Yep.
Do you have to make a different or a separate livery for each LOD? Asks MuseFan.
So LODs is something that's really interesting. Something I came across a few months ago. Actually, I was talking to Cyrus T about it. So for all the aircraft I've worked on, there's one livery covers all of the LODs. It was one of the liveries that Cyrus T was working on, where we realised when it was zoomed out, it just broke. So if you've got a livery file that's got multiple LODs, the answer is yes. That's not something I haven't worked on it, so it's not something I can really cover during these few sessions. But yes, if there's multiple LODs, you do. But for the aircraft we're using, they don't have the multiple LODs. One livery file works, and it covers the lot.
No, it's awesome. It's super exciting. Can't wait. And like in the meantime, guys, by all means, if you want to kind of catch up or, you know, maybe look at a couple of different videos to expand on what Kanzooie was talking about tonight. Of course, you can replay this video here on Twitch, but also, I mean, the internet is full of different kind of helpful videos to kind of point you in the right direction. I know Gibbo did a fantastic one there about a year ago, I think, at this stage. Steve has a video there as well from Flight Sim Expo. I'll drop that onto Discord as well. The more information you're looking at, it'll help you, if you like, gear you towards kind of next week when we start this process. But if, like me, you're just going to sit back and take the lead from Kanzooie, because that's what I want to do from start to finish, well, that'll absolutely work as well. So if you're interested in making liveries, there's a lot of information out there. But, you know, there's advantages and disadvantages to using things like Photoshop or Blender. And a lot of that can come actually down to the file size of the livery when it's finished. But again, that's stuff we'll probably have a look at kind of later on in a few weeks.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Cool.
It'll be good.
Kanzooie, you absolute legend, you. And everyone there in the chat are talking about the dog. What's your dog's name again? You told me before.
Really? Ziva.
Awesome dog. German Shepherd, I'll say. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful. But listen,
yes.
Really, really appreciate you coming on here tonight. Looking forward to next week already. We'll update the Discord, let folks know what they need. And this is super exciting. And I guarantee you, someone's going to make a livery that we've never seen before. You know.
Oh, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great because there's lots of people with lots of ideas, right? So just giving people the tools to be able to go away and have a go, and you might get bored and go, actually, it's not for me, and that's fine. But you might actually get into it and quite enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, like, Gibbo's quite right. He said, this should be interesting. We've all seen Murph's drawing skills. He can barely do a smiley face. Art, I'm not artistically inclined, right? I'm brutal at it, right? I was saying to you earlier on, it's like that picture of the horse with all this beautiful drawing at the back of the horse. And as you slowly move up to the head, it turns into like a pencil stick kind of a dude. That's me at the front, you know? But yeah, listen, it's super exciting.
Well,
looking forward to it.
It's like when we caught up earlier, and you were saying you're gonna do a livery, and I just laughing because the times we've worked on a livery where you're saying, oh, can you just tweak this and tweak that? You'll understand. You'll understand.
I'm just like, yeah, sure. That'll only take you 5 minutes. Will you just add this different color? And like, in fairness to both you and Cyrus, you're just like, yeah, okay, Murph, no worries, I'll fix that. Gibbo's done the same. Gibbo's made liveries for like our truck simulator, and I'd be like, Gibbo, yeah, will you just move that? And he was just like, yeah, I'll just move that. Little did I know, now that I know, I feel terrible, but also kind of funny. That had taken hours, you know?
Yeah.
And I can imagine what sort of names you'd invent.
Allow myself.
That Murphy fella, you know? But awesome stuff. Looking forward to next week already. Cannot wait for it. So Kanzooie, thank you very, very much indeed, my guy, for joining us here tonight.
No worries.
And looking forward to it next week.
Cheers all. See you all next week.
Sweet, awesome stuff. Right, now we need to press some more buttons over here as we say good evening to Kanzooie.